Welcome to Will It Build, the series where I take your builds from my YouTube comments and Discord server and put them to the test to see if they are the real deal. If it's solid, then I'll gift you 1,000 silver, and if it's really something special, you'll be featured in a dedicated build video for your submitted build. So comment yours below so we can answer the question, will it build? Hello and welcome to Will It Build, your favorite build series on YouTube. Today we have another high damage build, or at least it proposes that it is a high damage build, that brings as many friends as possible to a gunfight. It is called Child of the Swarm by Billy Bones. They say we're bringing threadlings, we're bringing moths, and we're bringing eldritch children. Another thing this video is bringing is another emblem giveaway. I think we're gonna do a bloodstream one today. Blue is my favorite color, so I like giving away the bloodstreams. I'll let you know how to enter later on in the video, but I want to get straight to this build because I'm pretty excited for it. For abilities and mods, are starting us off on a Void subclass with the Child of the Old Gods and Devour aspects. We're gonna make sure we have those equipped. Child of the Old Gods. Wait a minute, Devour is not an aspect. It's Child of the Old Gods and the aspect that gives empowerment Devour, aka double the grenade energy per kill and double the HP per kill. As far as fragments go, we're going with Remnants, Harvest, Starvation, and Persistence. So we're going to go ahead and get those set up right now. We got Persistence on already so that all of our Void buffs will have increased duration specifically for Devour. This actually makes it so that our maximum Devour time is 15 seconds instead of 10. And it makes it so that every time we get a kill while we have Devour or do anything that activates Devour, it'll extend it by 8 seconds instead of the typical 5. Also got Starvation so that we can also pick up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power to get Devour in conjunction with getting it through any Void ability kills. So we have tons of ways to get the Devour buff, which in my opinion is one of the strongest buffs in the entire game. I think the top 3 is like Devour, Invisibility, and Radiant. So definitely a fantastic buff to have up permanently. We've also got Remnants and Harvest, which is what I'm missing out on. Harvest we already have on. So anytime we defeat a weakened target, we'll create an Orb of Power and a Void Breach, which is going to be very easy to do since we have the Child of the Old Gods aspect. Finally, we have Remnants, which is of course going to make our damage over time grenades last a little bit longer. Lingering grenade effects such as Vortex Grenade, Void Wall, Void Spike, and Axiom Bolt have increased duration. It looks like they're not telling us which abilities they recommend we run. I'm assuming that since they're hooking us up with the Echo of Remnants fragment, they want us to run a damage over time grenade. In my opinion, the Vortex Grenade is the best of that lot. We'll go with Vortex Grenade, and then I personally like running the Vortex Nova Bomb. I don't really like Cataclysm very much because it blocks you and all your teammates' shots. It can, it's really easy for it to deal self-damage to you. Enemies can break it up. If they shoot it mid-air, it'll break apart before it actually reaches the enemy. I just like Vortex a lot better. I did some damage testing for the 2 supers a while ago and found that over, a 5-10 second period, they do the same amount of damage approximately. So I just like running Vortex. You can run whichever Nova Bomb you want. As far as armor mods go, they say typically ability regen mods work best. Reaper on the Bond, Absolution, Insulation, and Orbs of Restoration on the legs. So we're going to get those on real quick before we do anything else. We're going to make sure we have Reaper on the Bond, and they are recommending that we go ahead with Absolution, Orbs of Restoration, and Insulation. Reduces class ability cooldown each time you pick up an Orb of Power. So that's the class ability 1 is Insulation. They're also recommending Firepower and Bolstering Detonation on the hands, which I believe is going to generate an Orb of Power for us when we get a grenade final blow and give us class ability energy when we cause damage with a grenade. And I like to slot in an Arc Siphon as well just to keep the orbs raining down. So that is of course going to be on the helmet. We're gonna have to move a couple of things around to be able to fit that in. And it looks like the rest of it is dealer's choice for us. So I think I'll keep things the way they are. So I have a bomber and an outreach on the class item. There was no room on the boots after their recommendations. I'm just going to keep one of each resistance just to make sure I'm a little bit more immune to everything. I also had a focusing strike, so I get class ability energy when I cause damage with a powered melee attack. I'll go ahead and keep that on the gloves. And then on the helmet, I had Ashes to Assets and Dynamo, so I get my super back a little bit more anytime I class my so I get a little bit of super energy anytime I cast my class ability near targets. I'm going to show you guys a cool little trick with that, by the way, once we get into the run. And I'm going to keep Ashes to Assets since I'm assuming I'm going to be getting a lot of grenade kills. We're going to be throwing a lot of grenades, getting grenade energy back to Devour and our mods, all that good stuff. The one thing you're probably noticing right off the bat is we are not making any use out of any armor charge whatsoever, which typically I'm not a big fan of. I think armor charge is too good to just completely pass up on in the mod department. So So we're going to play around with it a little bit per their recommendations, and I'm going to let y'all know if there is a spot where I think we could put in some armor charge mods, whether we go with the yellow ones where we get a bunch of ability energy back, or if we go with the blue ones potentially for some weapon damage buffs down the line as we get into the run. I'll let you guys know. They say we're going with the Briarbinds exotic gauntlets and the X-Dirus exotic we are going with the Briarbinds exotic gauntlets and the X-Dirus special exotic grenade launcher. Now, I have actually never used X-Dirus until today. To prepare for this video, I went ahead and went into Shirochi and shot it a couple times to get the catalyst for it, but I don't really know that much about what it does. So let's talk about those real quick before we get kicked off. Briarbinds, of course, is kind of the child of the Old Gods exotic. I made an entire build video on this pair of exotic gauntlets. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend checking it out after you finish watching this Will It Build video. I'll link it in the description. It makes it so that our Void Souls, our child of the Old Gods, when they're out on the field, have longer duration and also gain escalating damage and durability as they defeat targets. You can also pick them up by interacting with them and throw them out at a different pack of enemies. You can move them around the field. I absolutely love it. It's a really, really cool exotic and really fun to use. Definitely recommend y'all checking out that build video in the description after you finish up with this Will It Build episode. Also got the X-Dirus grenade launcher, where we have a couple perks here. We've got Loyal Moths, where final blows with this weapon create a Loyal Moth. The moth will seek out nearby targets and detonate, damaging and blinding them. We also have Corrupted Nucleosynthesis. I can't believe I definitely said that right on the first try, but I completely winged it. This weapon enrages when dealing or taking sustained damage, gaining increased rate of fire while enraged. We also have a Catalyst, where weapon enrages faster while amplified. Final blows with this weapon make you amplified. So X-Dirus builds up 25% enrage on hit, gradually granting up to 0.7x decreased fire rate recovery delay. Reaching critical health maxes out enrage. So basically, every time you hit an enemy, it's going to make it so that you can shoot the gun faster. And if you have the Catalyst, which I think is not required for this build, it's definitely going to make it feel a little bit better, but definitely not required based on what I'm reading, because all it's going to do is give you amplified on kill and give you 50% enrage on hit while amplified, as opposed to the typical 25%. Now, the really cool thing about amplified that I feel like a lot of people don't know is obviously when you're amplified and you're sprinting, you get these speed booster buffs so that you sprint a little bit faster, you jump higher, and you slide further. And I feel like a lot of people don't know this. When you have the speed booster buff, you also get an extra 15% damage resistance. So having amplified actually increases your tankiness, assuming that you're sprinting while you have it, which is really, really cool. I think, was that it? Oh, no, we still have a couple other things. So for our weapon loadout, they're recommending a legendary strand primary weapon, ideally one with both hatchling and slice. So I only have a strand primary weapon with hatchling. I've got the Immortal from Trials of Osiris. I do not have one with slice. Hatchling just makes it so that precision final blows or rapidly defeating targets with a non-precision weapon spawns a threadling at their location. So that's how we're going to make threadlings through this build. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal that I don't have slice. X-Dirus is your secondary weapon, provides moth friends to assist the childs of the old gods and the hatchlings. As an added bonus, the amplified buff you get can assist with getting you to your children for quicker recovery and redeployment, which is actually a really cool synergy. I like that a lot. You get to sprint faster, pick up the child of the old gods with Briarbinds, and throw it back out at something a little bit more quickly. I like that. That's really cool. Heavy weapon is dealer's choice, although I like my bipod Apex Predator. I'm down with Apex Predator too. Mine doesn't quite have bipod. I'm more of a reconstruction bait and switch kind of guy. General gameplay loop / tips. This works best in target-rich environments. Get the ball rolling by sending out your child of the old gods into a pack of enemies, then open up with the X-Dirus. This will start the ball rolling with weakening whoever is closest, softening them up for the moths and grenade rounds. Once the baddies start dying and dropping orbs, you can paint distant targets with unraveling rounds from your artifact and getting the hatchlings in on the action. So this is interesting. They're mentioning the artifact, but I don't see them mentioning any artifact mods in the build right up. But I think what they're talking about is having this unraveling orbs artifact perk where picking up an orb of power grants strand weapons unraveling rounds, which is going to be huge for giving our immortal unraveling rounds. And I think what we should do in accordance with that is also take the Horde Shuttle artifact perk to increase our threadling production capacity so that damaging unraveled targets with a weapon will occasionally spawn a threadling from them. So I think we can combo these two together to make it so that our immortal can not only spawn threadlings with hatchling, but can also spawn them a lot anytime we pick up an orb and continuously shoot at an enemy, especially tanky enemies that we're going to be able to shoot for a while. We'll be able to spam make threadlings off of them, which is pretty cool. So first things first, let's try and get the amplified buff right away, which is all we have to do is get a single kill with this weapon, and that gives us amplified. I love amplified so much because, like I said, I'm getting that 15% damage resistance when I have amplified and I have the speed booster buff. You just jump so much further as well. Ooh, you take a lot of damage, self-damage with X-Dirus, so, but we'll look into that a little bit as we get going. Let's get this Child of the Old Gods out on the field, so we're weakening that Knight, draining him, getting ability energy back, which is perfect. We also get ability energy back in a lot of different ways from Child of the Old Gods. Whenever a kill, whenever an enemy dies inside the radius that the Child of the Old Gods is in, we get class ability energy, so we can actually cast our class ability even sooner to throw out another Child of the Old Gods. And anytime it's draining an enemy while we have Healing Rift equipped, we will also get grenade and melee ability energy as well. If you have Empowering Rift instead, you actually get HP anytime that it is draining an enemy, which is pretty cool. So as you can see, what we're doing here is we're just kind of following around the Child of the Old Gods, grabbing it whenever we're done killing a pack of enemies, and just shooting it at the next pack of enemies. The nice thing is you don't really have to consciously do all that much with it, because it just attacks whoever you're shooting at. So it's not like you have to like click a specific button to deploy it at a certain pack of enemies. All you have to do is just shoot bullets like you would be anyway at enemy targets, and Child of the Old Gods will just automatically go ahead and fly towards them. And you're kind of running towards packs of dead enemies anyway, scavenge all of the orbs that they drop after you kill them, so that you can get your unraveling rounds for your strand primary weapon. So you can just pick it up while you run over there to get the orbs anyways. I think it's an important thing to mention, because I think it means that it might be worthwhile to switch that arc siphon into a strand siphon if we're doing more of our ad clearing with our strand primary weapon. We'll probably get better mileage out of having a strand siphon than we would if we maintain this arc siphon that we currently have on. That's why we do these types of things. That's why we do Will It Build. You know, it's good to test things and, you know, actually answer these questions of like, you know, hey, I know that in theory, on paper, something might be the best option. But just because something's the best option on paper doesn't actually mean that's the best option in practice. So that's why we do these videos for you guys, so that you actually know what the best things are in practice. Because when it comes to Destiny, it doesn't really matter what the best things are on paper, because you're never playing Destiny on paper. You're only ever playing Destiny in practice. So our Devourer is really nice with the X-Dirus as well, is another thing I'm noticing, because if I'm, for example, shooting my grenade launcher, my X-Dirus, at tankier enemies, if there are weaker enemies anywhere in the vicinity of the tankier enemy, the X-Dirus, the splash damage from it just goes ahead and blows them up, and so I still get... Whoa. I was too busy talking to look at this boss's HP bar. Yeah, that was, wow. It feels effortless, is probably the word I would use to describe it. I will say, for those of you who are looking to use this build, it's going to scare you a little bit when you first start using it, because every time you kill something with the X-Dirus and you generate a moth, you're going to hear the noise of the moth being created, and your brain is going to tell you, oh no, I just heard a moth spawn. I need to run away and look out for it, because 99% of the time I deal with moths, they hunt me down and deal damage to me and kill me, position that I'm usually in. This time the moths are on my side. It's definitely going to take a little bit of time, but I just noticed it. Because my brain is so trained from hearing the noise, especially from doing so much Grandmaster Lightblade. Let's get our Rift down. Get that Child of the Old Gods out there, and then we'll just continuously reposition the Child of the Old Gods. Let's get on this boss right here. It seems like a good place to put it. It's going to go ahead and weaken him. We get to spam X-Dirus, and then we can pick up the Void Soul and redeploy it at a position of our choosing. Another big thing with the Briar Binds, I kind of talk about this in my build video that I made for the Briar Binds, but you can theoretically keep one Void Soul up infinitely, so long as you're always picking it up, because even though a Void Soul only lasts on the field for, I believe, 15 seconds, anytime you scavenge a Void Soul and then redeploy it, it'll reset that timer of how long it's allowed to be on the field. So, like, I've had the same Void Soul right here that I'm currently holding, like, ever since we were in that previous room. That is because every time I pick it back up, I get Void Soul ready for 25 seconds. That gives me 25 seconds of having it in my pocket. And then, wait, did I kind of get saved? No. So, earlier in the video, I mentioned we were going to be giving away a Bloodstream emblem. Here's what you'll have to do to enter to be eligible to win that emblem. So, I'm currently using the Immortal Strand SMG because they recommended that we use a Strand primary weapon, one that has Hatchling and Slice if you can, although not required. Those are just the first they recommended. But theoretically, you could use any Strand primary weapon of your choosing for this build. You could use this one. You could use like the auto rifle from Root of Nightmares, the Rufus's Fury. So for the giveaway for the Bloodstream emblem, all you have to do is like the video, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and comment down below what Strand primary ammo weapon you think would be best with this build. Do you think that the Immortal is a good choice? Do you think that you would rather go with like Rufus's Fury? Is there another one that maybe I'm not thinking of right now that you think would be good? Just let me know in the comments down below what you think would work out really, really well with this build. I'll pick one of the comments that I like and make sure I get that emblem over onto you. Let's see how quickly we can annihilate this boss as well. We can also throw our melee ability at tankier enemies. That will make them volatile. Even if we're not using void weapons, we can't necessarily get volatile rounds, but we can still put the volatile debuff on enemies. We're going to go ahead and get our Rift down, and then we'll shoot them so we get our Child of the Old Gods on the boss. That will permanently weaken the boss throughout this entire DPS phase. And just like the first boss, that one got one shot as well. Literally died in like 5 seconds. This one's feeling really, really solid so far, and I'm liking it a lot. I don't like to call them early, but I'm thinking this one... You know what? Actually, never mind. It will not build. This one fails. This one loses. No 1,000 silver for this build. While we're waiting for this portal to spawn, I do want to make a couple of tweaks to the build, though. Like I said earlier, I was definitely going to want to mix up some of the mod selections. I alluded previously to the fact that I think since we're using the Strand weapon as more our primary weapon and we're not getting as many multi-kills with the X-Dirus, I do want to move this Arc Siphon over to a Strand Siphon. I think it's going to give us a little bit more Orb of Power production. I also want to look down here at the boots, because although I don't think that we necessarily need a Arc Scavenger, I think we're completely okay in the X-Dirus ammo capacity department. I don't really think we end up, like when I was talking about earlier in the video, how I think we might end up needing a special ammo finder plus a Arc Scavenger. I don't think those are going to be necessary, but like I said, armor charge, the benefits it brings to your build is way too good. Maybe the Absolution and the Orbs of Restoration on this build so I can fit in 2 armor charge mods into here. We have 3 different elements of weapons, and I think it depends. You know, you can select your surge mods based on which weapons you want to empower. So if you want to go all in on empowering your ad clearing capabilities with your primary ammo weapon, we could go double strand surge to get a 17% bonus. If you want to go all in on the X-Dirus, you could go a double arc surge. If you want to go on your heavy weapon, double solar surge. Or you don't even have to be using a solar heavy weapon. You could double dip and go with a strand heavy or an arc heavy, so you can double dip into the X-Dirus plus heavy of my 3 weapons. I want a 10% bonus to my primary weapon, the Immortal, and I want a 10% bonus to my rocket launcher for DPS phases, my Solar Apex Predator. So I'm going to go with a Strand Weapon Surge and a Solar Weapon Surge. So first things first, let's make sure we're getting our Devour, getting ability kill. Or of course, we can just generate an Orb of Power. We have Reaper, so that's pretty easy. That'll get us Devour. And then I want to start getting stacked up again. One of the main, Devour is really good for a multitude of reasons. The main reason that everyone always attributes Devour to being super good is that obviously you get a full HP refresh anytime you kill an enemy, which is certainly the best part of it. Flies a little bit under the radar. That is also exceptionally good, is you get a ton of grenade ability regeneration anytime you get kills while you have the Devour buff up. which is absolutely impeccable. It basically allows you to spam grenades nonstop. So the damage from the moths as well, I'm noticing, is pretty solid, which I'm liking a lot. Let's get our Child of the Old Gods back out and make sure, I'm going to try and do a better job of making sure that I'm constantly picking it up and redistributing it across the field. Throw it on this boss right here. Get a grenade on. The fact that it weakens any enemy inside of its radius is just pretty crazy. So get the Void Soul out there. Absolutely cook all these enemies. I think we can toss a little Nova Bomb as well. Group up all the wyverns. And I'm gonna go pick up my Void Soul to make sure that doesn't disappear. Refresh the timer. And boom, all those guys are weakened. Pull out the X-Dirus. We are unfortunately out of ammo with the X-Dirus now. I'm also out of ammo with my rocket launcher. So looks like these guys. Throw our Void Soul back out there. Make sure it keeps going. Got a boss enemy over here, so I'm going to want to put the Void Soul directly on top of him. Get a grenade, and we have 10 X-Dirus shots back. You get a lot of X-Dirus ammo per ammo brick pickup. So even just getting one special brick, I believe it gave me 10 shots in the X-Dirus. So for this boss room, I want to focus exclusively on just trying to use what we already know. We're not going to try to learn new things with this boss room. We're just going to try and put to use what we've already learned. So let's get our Rift out on the field. We're going to let it hang out over there for a little bit. And then I'm going to go pick it back up so we can redeploy it. So we'll redeploy it on that Minotaur right there. You'll go ahead and siphon this pack of enemies. Weaken everything. Makes it way easier to kill all these dudes. And then we can go ahead and pick it back up to get ready to redeploy it on the next pack of enemies. There's 2 more Minotaurs that have spawned in. And here, as you can see, now I have another Void Soul at my disposal because I got my class ability back before the first Void Soul expired. So now I actually have 2 Void Souls that I can send out on the field. I currently have one sitting over there, siphoning that Minotaur, and then I have another one currently on my person. You can have multiple Void Souls out on the field at the same time, so I have a Void Soul over there, siphoning those enemies. I've got one on my body right now that I can now throw at the boss. It gets really, really crazy once you start getting more comfortable with Briar Vines. And let's go ahead and get a Nova Bomb off. And that is going to put us in the detain. I want to try and one-shot this boss before his shield comes back up. Still in the Well of Radiance. So I'll put a little grenade at our feet. We can get our Child of the Old Gods out as well. Start weakening everything in our vicinity. And as you can see with my Devour buff, I'm getting my grenade back so quickly. If you look at my grenade icon, I'm already halfway back on it. Just get it so quickly. We'll pull out the X-Dirus and we'll finish off this boss. And he is gone. Just like that. Oh, this is a great time to show you guys those secret amplified speed booster tips I was talking about earlier, by the way. So as you can currently see, I have speed booster on my screen, even though I do not have the amplified buff. The cool thing about speed booster is that you maintain it as long as you're sprinting, even if you lose the amplified buff. So you can theoretically have speed booster up permanently. Now you might be thinking, Mac, that seems kind of useless because, I mean, you're not really doing anything if all you're doing is sprinting around all day. Well, the neat thing is speed booster doesn't automatically deactivate when you stop sprinting. It only deactivates if you stop sprinting for about a full second, which means you can actually shoot shots in between sprinting and maintain speed booster. Anyway, will it build? Absolutely yes. This was a super fun one. Did an absolute ton of damage, and I love that we had like 3 different types of minions going on the field at all times. We had moths, we had threadlings, and we had the eldritch children, as they said in the post. As far as final setups went, we did change a couple of things, so our subclass setup remained pretty much the same. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.